Does India have a primary geopolitical adversary? It seems like historically it's tended to be Pakistan, but is it China? Is it someone else? Like, how do they think about that?
Now it's definitely China. I think Pakistan, in term one of Modi, it definitely was. But as some of the economic agenda that he's done, I guess as India started to lift off, basically, they stopped seeing Pakistan as a real rival. And simultaneously, Pakistan kind of unraveled. And there's obviously skirmishes in Kashmir, and that's still a sore spot. But I have noticed a lot of Indians, they're thinking about India not necessarily as a foil to Pakistan or as like a rival of Pakistan, but as, hey, how do we build our country up to be a superpower? And how do we rival China? Because China is the one who is definitely going to threaten us. And like I said, I think a lot of people, whether the government or people in general, they're kind of afraid about the military's capability versus China, especially now that China's technology sector, that's definitely coupled with their defense sector, it's just skyrocketing. What is India going to do, when that comes? What is India going to do against China's drone technology or whatever they field in the Himalayas or anything they do really? Can it compete? There's definitely a worry of Indians when it comes to that, but there's a simultaneous ambition that, hey, we need to step our shit up, essentially. We need to get better and we need to start looking at China eye to eye instead of being, way below them.
I know that they've been increasing their military budgets. It feels like basically everyone around the world is doing that these days. It How do they look at the Quad? Because, once again, that's like another thing, simplistic Western view. It's like, oh, it's another military alliance like NATO or something like that. And will be so powerful because it's India and Japan and Australia and the United States. But very explicitly, it was India who pumped the brakes and said, this is not a full-on alliance with, you get attacked, I have to fight. It's much more of a platform cooperation. We'll do some exercises together, but we're not going to go all the way up to that line of being completely and totally aligned with you. So can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter too much, but I saw a tweet today of this guy I follow, Indian guy. He's very smart. And he was kind of talking about this, not necessarily the Quad. I think India was very, gung-ho about the Quad earlier. But as these relations starting to change, one thing he tweeted was, hey, India is not trying to be the Asian Ukraine. They don't want to get dragged into a fight with China that they know they are going to lose. Indians are not confident about fighting China. They're somewhat confident about defending their territory, but going into China is another thing. Sending people to Taiwan is another thing. I think Indians are really focused on let's grow our capabilities, let's grow our economy, let's grow our defense, but we do not want to fight the Chinese people. It seems like there is partially, and it is kind of an admission, I don't know if we could say admission of defeat, but it's an admission of we are not good enough to stand up to China, and we don't want to, antagonize these people a lot.
Hope you're learning a lot from Akshar. I know that I am. I also recently learned that you and I have legal protections against our data being bought and sold by marketers that spam our phones and inboxes. The problem is it's complicated and takes a lot of time to actually get your name off all the lists that corporations buy in order to get your information. Until recently, I didn't think that there was a way out. Then I found Incogni. Once you sign up, they'll show you a dashboard of all the marketing lists that they're working on taking your name off of. So you get to see your name getting taken off of these lists that you didn't even know you were on. I'm signed up for their yearly plan, which means Incogni is constantly monitoring month after month to keep me off of these lists. And I'm already seeing results. Get your information off the databases with the link in my description. You can use the code Watson to get 60% off an annual plan with Incogni, or go to incogni.com/Watson.
Is there a split though between parties? Because you see that, and it's obviously Ukrainian lives more so, but to a great degree more so than American lives, but the perspective of the right versus the left in how involved we should be in something like the Ukraine war, how involved or what side we should take. around what's going on in something like Israel. Is there a split, like, BJP versus INC, or some other type of split in terms of people that might be a little bit more like, let's get muscular, let's get a little bit more antagonistic, versus those who kind of have a more live and let live pacifistic perspective?
In general, I'd say overall, there is actually a foreign policy consensus across even the BJP and the INC when it comes to issues like Ukraine, or when it comes to issues like Russia, the relationship with Russia. Recently, though, there has been some changes. I think this is more fringe stuff. The BJP accuses Rahul Gandhi, the prime leader of the INC, and I guess the opposition, of being in cahoots with the liberal establishment of America. They accuse other people too, but they especially go for Rahul Gandhi, I guess, because he's the biggest one, and they have a bit more dirt on him as well. I think if you really look down at it, something Rahul does that does not help him is he is a dynast. His father was the PM, his grandmother was the PM, his great-grandfather was the PM. But Rahul, he's not cut out for politics necessarily. I think other life, he'd just be doing his own thing. He seems like a kind of chill guy, but at the same time kind of entitled because he's been pushed into politics. But Rahul, he does not connect with the average Indian, and something he does is he goes to, say, the UK or random places in Europe or America, and he goes to these college campuses and he just talks crap about, India and the Indian government, and he kind of invites pretty much explicitly foreign interference that, hey, America can't stand by while all this stuff is happening in India. You need to put pressure onto the Indian government and XYZ. This type of stuff does not help his brand in terms of being, a strong nationalistic or patriotic leader. And it helps with these accusations from the BJP of, hey, this guy is not India first. But, I think Rahul even himself has been explicit about the Indian position on Ukraine, that India should remain neutral. They should buy gas or oil from Russia. And whatever the BJP's position is, I think he actually agrees with. So there's more consensus than not, actually. The breaking consensus is, again, a lot of this civil service stuff. How are we going to interface with these NGOs? How are we going to interface with activists and certain domestic policies as well?
The modern history, at least of India, has been this of general non-alignment, a little bit of swaying back and forth, like you're saying, but never like a hard fastening, the way, NATO allies have been really fastened to one another since the early days of the Cold War. Does India have a natural ally, though, that's just kind of they're always in the same corner, their interests are tightly aligned, or is everyone kind of in that gray zone?
It seems like the most congruent ally has been Russia / the USSR over, I think, since the independence. It has gotten slightly strained due to, Russia's ties with China and Russia's issues with America. So there's been, slight sparks there. But overall, I think there's a lot of trust with Russia. I think the more interesting allies, though, are these kind of smaller countries that give, I don't know, one or two small, really vital things to India. So like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, it's very ironic. Modi, he's called this, muscular Hindu nationalist leader. But overall, like when it comes to a lot of these Muslim countries, India has great relations with like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, a lot of these Gulf nations. They're some of their closest allies now, and they've been very vital in terms of energy. And the ties have just gotten stronger and stronger. Israel is another one, and I think technology is a big, chord here. France for defense, there's a lot of defense relations, and France generally does not interfere with India. I guess it's different from a lot of Anglophone countries. There's not as much lecturing, which India really does not like, especially lately. Japan as well is another one. They do a lot of infrastructure projects.